Just in case you guys haven't been paying attention over the last couple of weeks, there's currently, for a lack of better words, I don't know how else to describe it, a race war being fought right here in America, not with hands, not with weapons, but a race war being fought through donations and fundraiser campaigns. And yes, I am well aware of how ridiculous that sounds, but I do not make the news. I simply report on it. Now, of course, all of this kicked off with Karmelo Anthony. We all sat back and watched as an entire community of racists came together to celebrate and congratulate Karmelo Anthony for killing a young white kid. And of course, they even raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for him and his family so they can go buy new cars and new houses and new Jordans and you name it. Well, a couple of weeks after all of that went down, we had this Shiloh Hendrix situation. Some lady calls a kid the N-word at the park, and the same people who were just congratulating and celebrating Karmelo, they decided that they wanted to ruin Shiloh's life. We were just told it's okay to stab white kids in the chest, but saying the N-word is apparently where they draw the line. So the same people who celebrated Karmelo started doxing Shiloh, attacking her and threatening her. And that's when people decided that, hey, now's the time to take a stand. As revenge for everything we saw with Austin Metcalf and Karmelo, we're going to rally around Shiloh and raise a bunch of money for Shiloh. As revenge for y'all raising money for Karmelo, but also to send a message that, hey, we're fed up with all of the racist BS that is aimed right towards white people all the time in this country. Well, now a third contender has entered the ring. And in professional wrestling, this is what you call a triple threat match. The number one race grifters in America, the NAACP, they saw all of this money flying around, right? All of this money flying around, and they knew that it was racially fueled, so they figured, hey, it's time for us to enter. It's time for us to get as much money as we can out of this situation as well. So the NAACP up in Minnesota, what's the name of the place? Who cares? The NAACP up in Minnesota decided that they were going to launch a GoFundMe for the little 5-year-old with autism that Shiloh Hendrix called the N-word. So they made a GoFundMe, they promoted it, they advertised it, and they quickly raised over $300,000. And everyone was looking at the GoFundMe and the picture they used of what they thought was the 5-year-old autistic kid. And they were just looking like, man, look at this sweet little kid. He looks so happy. How dare anyone call him the N-word? And here he is with his loving father. His father shouldn't have to deal with that. A loving father with his kid hanging out at the park when they're attacked by a white woman calling them the N-word. So the money started rolling in for this kid as everyone's looking at the photo that is on the fundraiser site. Everyone's thinking, hey, oh, this is the 5-year-old with autism that she called the N-word. Well, folks, this is where things get sticky. The only problem is the photo that they used of this 5-year-old with autism and his father, it is a stock photo from Google. They didn't even try hard. They literally found like one of the first pictures, one of the first stock photos of a black child and father that they could find on Google. They didn't dig through the internet to find some obscure photo. No, they used the most basic stock photo they could. They didn't even try because they know they didn't have to. They know that they can easily con people because a lot of these people who are donating to this 5-year-old with autism, there are people whose brains have been warped to only think about race, to only think about how they're the victim of the white man. So they just throw a stock photo up there of some kid that isn't even the kid who Shiloh called the N-word, and they raised over $300,000. Well, of course, people like me and others, we started calling them out. Like, hey, what are you doing using a stock photo pretending that this is the 5-year-old child? What are you doing here? Why are you using a fake photo while you're raking in all of these donations? And by the way, even if you read the GoFundMe, if you read the description, it's very shady. It talks about how all of the money raised is going to go towards like advocating for the family. It doesn't list that the money's going to go pay for college tuition. The money's going to be used for a new house. The money's going to be used to move this family away. It doesn't say any of those things. It basically deceptively kind of says, hey, the money's not really going to the family. It's going to be used for us to advocate for the family, right? It's going to be used. We're raising all of this money for this poor kid, and we're not really going to give the money to the kid. We're going to do fake activism and demonstrations with the money that's in the kid's name, right? That's basically, if you really boil it down and break it down, that's what the description is saying. It's not that, oh, this $300,000 is going right into the pocket of the parents or this child that was called the N-word. No, basically the money's going to the NAACP for them to do a bunch of fake activism like they always do. So right away, I thought that was shady. But then when I exposed and other people exposed that you're using a stock photo, you're using a fake photo of some kid that doesn't even really exist, all of a sudden, folks, they shut it down. People started calling out the fake stock photo. People started calling out that it looks like you're not even really planning on giving this money to the kid. And out of nowhere, after getting called out, they literally shut down the GoFundMe. And they're claiming that it's because the family told them to. Mind you, before they got exposed for the fake photo, before they got exposed for, oh, the money's not really going to the family, is it? They were claiming that they were in touch with the family and the family was okay with the GoFundMe. But as soon as they got exposed and people started doing some digging, they shut down the GoFundMe and claims that the family told them to shut it down. So you mean the family just told you, oh, there's hundreds of thousands of dollars rolling in, and the family tells you, shut it down, please. Shut it down. That's enough money for now. No. I believe they shut it down because they are scamming. They are running a gigantic scam. In fact, no one can produce this 5-year-old with autism. Right now in Minnesota, you want to know what they're probably doing? They're probably having a casting call, searching far and wide for a Somalian 5-year-old with autism. You know, they're probably putting ads in the local penny saver. You know, if you have a 5-year-old Somalian kid with autism, we need you now, right? Because they cannot produce this 5-year-old. Because I don't think the 5-year-old exists. I'm not saying that Shiloh didn't call a kid a mean name, but I don't think he was 5. I don't think he had autism. I think the kid was much older. And we know how they love to just parade around these victims, right? They would love nothing more than to put a sweet little 5-year-old kid on the news that was just called the N-word. They would love nothing more than to have his parents crying on the news and doing all of this, but no one's come forward yet. They're doing interviews with the Somalian cameraman, and if you listen to the interview, it's kind of weird because he doesn't directly say it, but he kind of suggests in the interview that there wasn't even parents there watching that kid. He's acting like it wasn't his kid that he defended, that it was some other kid that was at the park by themselves. Where's their parent? Because the Somalian camera guy claims that there was no one else around to defend the little kid and he had to step up, right? So, if the kid really is 5 with autism, why is a unsupervised 5-year-old with autism hanging out at the park with no parents in sight? Meanwhile, I guess there's a Somalian that's been accused of doing nasty things with underage people. He's here at the park watching this 5-year-old autistic kid. He's his guardian angel, making sure no white women call him any slurs. Something is really off here. I feel like the NAACP shut this down because they got exposed, because they can't produce a 5-year-old and the 5-year-old's mother or father to really come forward and claim this money and to come forward and identify themselves as the victims of a word that they probably use themselves 150,000 times a day. Now, if you want to donate to something that's not a scam and you appreciate these videos and you appreciate this channel, consider donating to the channel via Cash App or Super Thanks, or consider supporting for free by liking the video, commenting, subscribing, and sharing this video on social media. But as I'm just sitting here looking at this scam GoFundMe, and I'm looking at the photo that they used, I can't help but feel that it's kind of racist. Everyone wants to talk about racism, right? I think it's kind of racist, or maybe it's colorist. I don't know what the right word is, but I think it's weird that instead of using an actual photo of the kid, who's probably not 5, he's probably like 11 or 12. That doesn't make it okay to call him slurs at the park, but it definitely changes the optics when it comes to this story. But instead of using the photo of a real kid, because I guess they can't find one, instead of using a photo of a Somalian kid that I guess would better represent the child involved in this situation, they go and try to find a more light-skinned kid with a big smile on their face. Because they feel like, and mind you, I didn't start this GoFundMe. Obviously, they must feel like this stock photo of this fake kid, they must feel like in their mind that maybe because this kid looks this way, that they would be more likely to raise money than if they used a photo of the actual kid or a photo of a kid that looks like the actual kid. But instead, they used this photo. And I really wonder why. And I think I may know why. Because, you see, here's the guy. Here's the guy in charge of the local NAACP up there around where Shiloh lives. And here's his woke white wife, who's also his assistant. So together, these two are pulling some really shady stuff using stock photos of happy, more light-skinned kids to try to rake in a bunch of money for some non-existent 5-year-old Somalian with autism that we haven't seen any evidence even exists. So the grift is really strong with these people. The grift is really strong. But don't for one second think that it ends here. I was halfway joking earlier when I said that they're doing casting calls, trying to find someone, but I'm also serious because I do think that they're literally going to try to find some kid to serve as a substitute for the kid who was actually involved in the situation. And I would like to hear from Shiloh. I would like Shiloh to clarify if the kid in question was the one shown in the video. Because if that's the case, the kid damn sure ain't 5. And yeah, I do think it changes things. If you got a 5-year-old with autism rummaging through your bag, not knowing any better, and you have an 11-year-old rummaging through your bag, I do think there's a difference there. So, all in all, regardless of what's going on here, there's definitely some scamming going on. There's definitely some shady stuff going on. And there's a huge effort to kind of, I don't even know how to describe it, but in a time where usually they would be wanting to produce this kid and their parents to do interviews, to play victim, to run with this news story, it seems like it's impossible for them to do so. And there's like a huge effort to put all of this heat on Shiloh, but they're not really producing the evidence. They're not really producing anything else other than, look at this mean white lady. Yeah, well, what about the 5-year-old kid in question? And what about that kid's family? Why wasn't that kid's family supervising them at the park? A 5-year-old shouldn't be at the park by themselves, especially if they have autism. And why is this guy who's accused of picking up underage people and doing Lord knows what to them, well, I guess we know what, why is he here at the park? So there's a lot of questions here. And then, of course, now we got the NAACP involved that just raised $300,000 for basically no apparent reason at all. So there's definitely something going on here, and I'm going to have to continue digging because right now it's just way too weird to me that this family and this victim doesn't want to come forward and claim over $300,000. They don't want to come forward and talk about what they experienced. So obviously there's something to hide. They're either hiding the fact that the kid ain't 5, hiding the fact that the kid ain't got autism, or maybe the parents are wrapped up in some weird shady stuff just like the cameraman. Maybe the kid was a foster kid, just like the kids that the cameraman was accused of doing a lot of things to that I can't talk about on this platform. So there's something shady here, and I'm going to try to get to the bottom of it. So please support me along the way. Subscribe, ring that notification bell, drop some comments, like the video. You know how to donate if you would like. And with that being said, I'll talk to you all very soon in the next one.